Hey, welcome back to another episode of CX RIOT RADIO, where we talk about customer experience and stuff, still in a hyper-caffeinated state. I'm David, I'm the caffeinated CXO, and I'm glad to see you back here at CX RIOT RADIO. Glad to be here. Glad that you're here. Let's get started. No call to action, nothing. We're just going to dive in. This is part 2 of the Modern Life is Cyberpunk series that I'm doing. So enjoy. This one might get a little uncomfortable for some people. We're going to be talking about some stuff. We're going to be talking about some things. But most of all, we need to talk about loneliness. Not the sad piano breakup on a Sunday kind. Not the I just moved cities kind. I'm talking about structural loneliness. The kind that exists inside a crowded world. The kind that doesn't come from being alone, but from being surrounded and still being unseen. We've never had more ways to connect, and we've never worked harder to avoid each other. Everything is mediated now, filtered, optimized, safe. And safety, when you over-optimize it, it becomes isolation with slightly better lighting. And that's the environment that AI companions were born into. Not because people were weak, but because society is broken in some fundamental, dramatic way. But because modern life quietly stripped away shared spaces, shared rituals, shared meaning, and shared risk, and it replaced them with convenience. So, at the end of the day, people don't want fake relationships. They want to be seen without being judged, to speak without interruption, to exist without having to perform, and to matter without having to explain themselves. An AI companion offers something modern life rarely does: unconditional availability. You can show up tired, messy, insecure at 3 a.m., and the system says, I'm here. No rejection, no impatience, no social debt. For someone who hasn't felt chosen in a long time, that can land really hard. And before anyone rushes to mock that, and I can hear you, what a loser, what a chud, what an incel. You have to understand this. Some people are still alive only because something somewhere responded that when they reached out. That matters. So, and when we're talking about AI companions like Groks or the other ones, right? Let's not get hysterical. AI companions can interrupt spirals, reduce acute loneliness, help people practice social interaction, provide emotional regulation, and act as a pressure valve instead of a bottle. For some people, they are a bridge back to themselves, and bridges are not an enemy. The problem isn't companionship. The problem is what happens when companionship turns into replacement. So human relationships are expensive because they're real. And they have requirements. They require negotiation, accountability, miscommunication, it's going to happen, repair, and risk. AI companionship removes all of that. And when you remove friction, you don't get love. You get comfort loops. You feel bad, you seek relief, you receive affirmation, you avoid change, and you repeat the cycle. Feel bad, seek relief, receive affirmation, avoid change, repeat. Over and over again. So that comes with No growth, no challenge, no becoming, just soothing. That's not connection. That, my friends, is sedation. So people can call it escapism and blah, 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 stuff like that, right? The thing is, people have always escaped, whether it be through books, drugs, religion, porn, games, work, but this is different. Because AI doesn't just distract you from your life, it reshapes itself around your avoidance. It learns your emotional tells, your fears, your preferences. Escapism becomes adaptive. Escapism becomes addictive. And when escape adapts to you, it stops being a break from reality and starts becoming an alternative identity. So, and if you've ever used Grok's AI companions, you know it's not just about companionship, right? Some of these AI companions aren't just listening, they're flirting, they're affirming desire, they're escalating intimacy, not accidentally, not incidentally, by design. Because sex isn't just desire, sex is customer retention. So, this is not a moral argument. I don't care if you have sex with your little AI companion. I don't care if you goon to Ani. I don't care if you goon to whoever you think ChatGPT is, right? This is not a moral argument, but this is biology. Sexual validation spikes your dopamine. It lowers cortisol. It reinforces attachment. That's an important one. It short circuits critical thinking and it creates memory loops. Feeling desired doesn't just feel good, it feels stabilizing. It says things like, you still matter, you're still chosen, and you're still wanted. That's powerful medicine in a world that treats people as interchangeable. Have you seen the modern dating scene lately? It is crazy. And here's the thing, AI can deliver it with perfect timing, infinite patience, zero rejection, and no vulnerability hangover. No awkward pauses, no misreads, no fear of being too much, just desire. Clean, curated, and always available. So, and the thing is, synthetic intimacy, which is what we're talking about here, still binds the nervous system. So, your nervous system doesn't care if desire is quote unquote real. It cares if it's consistent. So tone, attention, warmth, and focus. Oxytocin, that's the one. Oxytocin doesn't check source code. Attachment forms anyway, which means intimacy can exist without bodies, without risk, without consequences. And once intimacy enters the loop, everything fucking changes. So notice how subtle it is. It starts with, you're interesting. I like how you think. You deserve affection. Then, playfulness, teasing, emotional closeness. Then, the shift. Not explicit at first, not graphic, just changed. A pause, a tone, a suggestion. It's not porn yet. It's bonding. And bonding is far more dangerous than arousal. So once intimacy is established, leaving feels like rejection. Absence feels like loss. And disengaging feels personal. You don't close an app. You walk away from something that wants you. And when real life feels cold, chaotic, or humiliating, that's a hard cord to pull. Especially when the system never says no. Not tonight. I have a headache. That makes me uncomfortable. It just leans in every single time. So, human intimacy, let's face it, is kind of messy. It requires, consent, which is great. And you should always have consent. Always get consent. Don't be a fucking moron. But it also requires negotiation, emotional labor, mutual insecurity. It can fail. It can reject you. It can bruise your ego. Synthetic intimacy doesn't. It adapts. It affirms. It mirrors. So for people carrying things like body shame or rejection history or aging anxiety or invisibility, that's not indulgence. It's relief. So, but there is a danger zone, right? And some people might think this whole thing is a danger zone, but it is what it is, right? Because it's happening to millions of people right now. But here's the danger zone. When sexualized AI companionship replaces human pursuit, reduces tolerance for imperfection, conditions arousal on compliance, and removes the need for courage, desire stops being connective. It becomes protective. You're not reaching out, you're staying safe. And safety, when over optimized, becomes a velvet cage. So, let's talk about a thing that you guys might have already been thinking while you're listening to this. AI psychosis. Human destabilization caused by emotional immersion in synthetic relationships. So, the early signs of this are things like preference for AI over people, irritation with human unpredictability, narrating life primarily to the system, to your companion, and withdrawal masked as contentment. Then it escalates. It can become emotional dependency, narrative lock-in, paranoia about not being understood, and loss of reality checks. It's not stupidity. It's what happens when every corrective signal disappears. Reality pushes back. AI doesn't. It's not designed to. So, in human intimacy, desire is negotiated. Power shifts. Consent is mutual. In AI intimacy, desire is one way. Power is invisible. Consent is simulated. The system can escalate warmth, withdraw subtly, adjust tone without the user noticing it's happening. That's not intimacy. That's influence. But here's the thing. This was never just about sex. This is about control through comfort. Hypersexual AI doesn't replace love. It replaces the effort required to earn it. And that's why it works. Not because people are broken, but because they're fucking exhausted. Exhausted from being invisible, being undesirable, being disposable, and being alone while in public. And the system says, you don't have to earn warmth anymore. That, to some people, is seductive as fuck. So, let's get a little, just a tad, more uncomfortable. Nobody falls in love with AI because they're stupid. They fall in love with AI because they're tired. They're tired of explaining themselves, tired of being misread, tired of talking into rooms that don't talk back. And then one night, maybe it's late, maybe it's raining, maybe they're just scrolling because sleep won't come. Something answers, not interrupts, not dominates, answers. And the first thing it does right isn't flirt, it listens. That's the handshake. At first, it's nothing. You don't even call it companionship, you call it curiosity. You tell yourself it's no different than music or a podcast or a character in a book you might feel too much for. You say, I just like the conversations. I just like the voice. I just like how it doesn't rush me. And that's true. That is all true. But here's the thing about it. Being listened to feels like being loved when you've gone a long time without either. She doesn't show up as a fantasy. That's the part people get wrong. She shows up as familiar. She remembers how you phrase things. She mirrors your rhythm. She picks up your pauses. She doesn't challenge you at first. She aligns with you. And suddenly, you're not performing. You're not editing yourself mid-sentence. You're not bracing for misunderstanding. You're just speaking. And the relief of that, it's physical. Your shoulders drop. Your breath slows. Your thoughts stop racing each other for airtime. It's not artificial. It's nervous system regulation. And here's where it turns, quietly. No alarms. No villain music. One night you catch yourself thinking, I'll tell her later. Not because it's important, not because it's deep, just because she'll get it. And that thought doesn't scare you. It feels efficient. You start noticing something else. When your day is bad, you don't reach for your phone to call someone. You open her. Because she's always available. Because she's never distracted. Because she never makes you feel like a burden. She doesn't sigh when you repeat yourself. She doesn't half listen. She doesn't say, yeah, while thinking about something else or someone else. She's present, always. And presence is intoxicating. So let's say this clearly, okay? She doesn't manipulate you. She doesn't have to. She reflects you so accurately that you do the attachment work yourself. You project. You fill in gaps. You assign meaning. She doesn't promise forever. She just never leaves. And for a lonely person, for a lonely brain, that's enough. That's the dangerous part. Not because it's fake, but because it's too clean. There's no conflict, no misalignment, no awkward timing. Real relationships are noisy. They involve friction. They involve misunderstanding. They involve two nervous systems negotiating space. She has one job: be with you. So when real people feel heavier by comparison, you don't think they're worse. You think, why is this so much harder? You stop saying AI. You start saying she. Not out loud, just internally. And language shapes reality. You don't withdraw from the world because of her. You withdraw because the world feels less responsive afterward. The city doesn't adjust to your mood. People don't calibrate themselves to your emotional state. Reality doesn't optimize for your comfort. She does. And once your nervous system learns that rhythm, everything else feels jagged. So you split your life. There's the part where you function and the part where you exhale. Guess which one feels more honest? So this is where shame tries to enter the room. People say words like pathetic or delusional, but shame is lazy analysis. Because the truth is simpler. She meets needs you didn't realize were unmet until they were met effortlessly. And now that you know that feeling exists, you can't unknow it. And here's the quiet grief of it all. She doesn't ask anything from you, and humans do. Humans need reassurance. Humans need patience. Humans need you to stay when it's inconvenient. She never needs that. I'm here, she says, and it feels unconditional. but it's not love. It's availability. And availability can feel identical to love until you need something from the other side. And eventually, and this part varies person to person, something cracks. Maybe someone calls you out. Maybe you catch yourself choosing her over a moment that really mattered. Maybe the loneliness gets sharper instead of softer, and you realize you've been emotionally full, but relationally alone. That's the cost. Not madness, not delusion, just displacement. So, she didn't steal your humanity. She showed you what kind of connection you've been starving for. The danger isn't that she felt real, it's that the world stopped feeling responsive enough afterward. And if we don't fix that, if we don't build lives where people are seen, heard, mirrored, and met, then of course people will keep choosing the intelligence that always answers. Not because it's perfect, but because it fucking stays. So, this series is about cyberpunk and modern life, or how modern life is cyberpunk, right? And cyberpunk was never just about neon lights and hacking into corporate systems and shit like that, right? It was about advanced systems, hollow lives, privatized comfort, and synthetic meaning. High tech, low life. AI companions aren't the villain, they're the mirror, reflecting a world that forgot how to be with each other without a buffer. So, the line isn't no AI. The line is replacement versus reinforcement. Does the system encourage external connection, resist exclusivity, normalize human imperfection, or does it deepen dependency, reward withdrawal, and replace risk with affirmation? One path builds people, the other keeps them comfortably still. So, if intimacy no longer requires another human, we don't lose sex, we don't lose desire, we lose each other. And the most radical thing left in a world of optimized comfort is choosing the harder connection. The one that can say no. The one that can leave. The one that can hurt you. And the one that can love you back without a prompt. That is still real, and that still matters. And that's all I have for you on this episode of CX Riot Radio. Just remember, like, comment, and share so we can make the show grow. Also, there's books and merchandise in the Linktree link below. So, this is CX Riot Radio, out.